Evan Weber is fooling around with his wife Karen in bed on Father's Day. Their kids, Jake and Lisa, enter the room with a cake for Evan. He plays with his kids as a monster and sends them out so he can get intimate with Karen. However, Karen is concerned with an upcoming exhibition set to feature her artwork, as well as preparing to take the kids out for a beach trip that Evan would have gone to were it not for a shoulder injury and being backed up with work. Evan is an architect, while Karen is a successful artist. Karen's assistant, Louis, arrives to check out the sculpture that Karen made, but it isn't dry yet, so he'll return to collect it when it is, and will take it to the gallery. Evan later says goodbye to Karen and the kids, leaving him alone with their dog, Monkey, and a load of work for a house project. That night, the rain came pouring down. A knock is heard at the door. Evan goes to answer and finds two beautiful women, Genesis and Belle, soaking wet. Genesis says they were on their way to a party, but she left her phone at home and Belle got hers wet. Evan invites them inside to dry off and use the computer to find the party address. He then lets the ladies put their clothes in the dryer and gives them robes to wear, while also taking the wet phone to try and dry it with rice. Evan calls them an Uber, though it will take 45 minutes to show up. As they wait for the Uber and their clothes, the ladies check out Karen's artwork and Evan's collection of vinyl records. Evan says he used to be a DJ, and the ladies talk about being flight attendants. They start getting into their intimate lives, talking about the type of men they've slept with, and how physical intimacy is a basic human need. Belle in particular appears to start coming on to Evan, but he notices the Uber is there, so he goes ahead to retrieve their clothes and the phone. The ladies slip into the bathroom where Evan goes to call them. He finds them both naked and inviting him to join them. Evan tries to resist and push them off, but the ladies start getting closer to him, leading him to finally give in. The Uber driver departs as no one answers his calls, and they take it to the bedroom where Evan has a threesome with them. Evan wakes up in bed alone the next day and immediately returns his wife's text. Then he puts his wedding band back on, gets dressed, and checks the house. But as soon as he thinks the ladies are gone, he hears them laughing and making a mess in the kitchen. When he walks in, he finds Genesis making pancakes and offering him some. Evan gets angry at their behavior and asks them if he can drive them home or wherever they would want. The ladies laugh at him, so he gets even angrier, realizing that he has a small problem on his hands. Suddenly, his wife calls through FaceTime, and he runs outside to take the call. Evan tells her that he smoked too much weed and passed out. Karen calls him a lightweight and begins telling him about the kids, saying that everything is going well, except for when Jake got stung by a jellyfish. When the two ladies appear on the glass door behind him, he moves so that she can't see them on the video call and tells her about his work project, saying that he's on a really good groove and will finish it soon. The ladies continue to mess with him through the glass doors, and Karen notices that he's distracted, so they end the call. Realizing that he's going to have a hard time getting rid of the ladies, he walks into the house cursing and yelling at them. Evan tells them to get up and get dressed, so the ladies run into the other room. When he goes there to get them, he only finds Genesis and then goes looking for Belle. He finds her in his closet, dressed in his shirt, asking him to hold her, and throws herself onto him, saying that she loves him. Evan takes her back to Genesis and gives them 3 minutes to get dressed while he waits for them outside. He finishes a cigarette and walks back in to get them when he sees both of them vandalizing Karen's sculpture with genitalia drawings. Evan gets angry and flings Genesis off the sculpture, then grabs the pen from Belle's hands, asking them if they have any idea what they've done. Evan then starts to call the cops until Genesis says she'll tell the cops that he engaged in statutory assault, claiming she and Belle are both 15 years old. Even though he doesn't believe them, he knows no one would believe him, so he obliges. Evan is confused as to what they want from him, so he offers them money, but that in turn enrages the ladies for treating them like escorts, and Belle slaps him. When the doorbell rings, Evan instructs them to stay put and goes to answer it, finding Vivian, his physical therapist, at the door. Vivian immediately begins to talk, and he informs her that he's feeling much better and doesn't require any more therapy. The woman persists in talking incessantly until Genesis appears and puts her arms around Evan, letting Vivian know what's going on. Evan tells her to return inside, and Vivian becomes extremely upset because she cares for his wife deeply. He asserts that it's not what she assumes, but she simply continues walking in disgust, stating that it is precisely what she believes. Evan returns inside the house, discovering the ladies tampering with his turntable. He shoves Belle away from the table and then attempts to push both of them out of the house, but the ladies persist in meddling with him as Genesis continues to taunt him. Evan grows increasingly angry and grabs her by the throat. Belle becomes frightened and seizes a statue to hit him over the head if she needs to protect her friend, who continues to taunt Evan relentlessly. He releases her and calls the police, reporting a break-in, and before he can say anything further, Genesis terminates the call prematurely and asks him to take them home. They all depart the house and he brings them in front of a house that they claim to live in, and he leaves. The ladies then walk away from the house and into a playground. Evan returns home and immediately begins to tidy up. He cleans the kitchen and the bathroom. Then he attempts to clean his wife's sculpture. That night, he takes a tablet, thinking that it's all over and that he's managed to get out of the situation unscathed. Evan returns to work on his project when he hears glass shattering in another part of the house. He investigates the disturbance but initially finds nothing. Upon entering the living room, he discovers one of his family photos broken on the ground. As he crouches down to retrieve it, Genesis strikes him over the head with one of his wife's sculptures. Evan awakens tied to the bed with Genesis applying makeup and humming. He pleads with her to release him and let him go, claiming he's merely a good person who made a mistake, but she simply continues her activities. Suddenly, Belle appears wearing his daughter's clothes, including her underwear. Evan loses his composure and demands she remove them, labeling her a deranged individual. Belle complies, discarding the underwear in his face and dancing around him, declaring that every girl's first love is their daddy. Evan rebukes her, stating that she's disturbed, but Belle persists with her antics. He implores her to untie him, and she merely sits atop him, revealing some of her deeply ingrained daddy issues and troubled childhood. Simultaneously, Genesis inscribes, "It was not a dream," on the mirror. Belle begins to strike Evan, associating him with her own father, as though he were the one who harmed her during her childhood. Suddenly, his phone rings, and they both reach for it when they see it's Karen calling Evan on FaceTime. They prepare to answer it and unzip his pants, threatening to pick up the call. He pleads with them not to do it and promises Belle to fulfill everything she desires. Belle desires to get intimate with him and jumps on him as Genesis films it on his phone, then exits the room. Evan manages to break through his restraints and shoves Belle to the ground, getting up and going after Genesis when he finds her devouring a cake. He seizes her by the neck, but she thrusts her fork right into his shoulder. She twists the fork around in the wound, pinning Evan down. So, when Belle shows up, she informs him that they'll have to punish him because he struck her, and Evan loses consciousness due to the pain. The ladies tie Evan up to a chair with an electrical cord and put headphones on him as part of their weird game show type of torture. If Evan answers a question with something Genesis disagrees with, she plays a loud, deafening sound in Evan's ears. Genesis asks him a question, and Evan doesn't know how to respond, but before he faced his punishment, he is saved by Louis, who shows up at the door and enters with his keys so he can collect Karen's sculpture. Genesis pretends to be Evan's niece with Belle as her friend to make a music video. When Genesis flirts with him, unfortunately, her charm fails to work on him, and he sees right through them. Louis confronts the ladies but then hears Evan making noise and runs to help him. He undoes Evan's gag but runs outside when he hears more noise. The ladies are breaking the sculpture, to his horror. It causes him to have an asthma attack, and Genesis has his inhaler. They toss it back and forth as Louis tries to catch it, but he slips and hits his head on the base of the sculpture, eliminating himself. The ladies burst into laughter and disregard Evan's pleas to call an ambulance and aid Louis. The ladies wrap Louis's body in paper and stash him away. They plan to execute Evan at dawn. They taunt Evan with a monster voice similar to what he did with his kids, meaning they were spying on him all along. As they continue their game show, Evan finally freaks out and demands to know what they would gain from trying to kill him when they come onto him. The ladies then continue to destroy Karen's sculptures and find a hidden gun. Evan manages to escape the house, only to trip outside and get caught by Genesis. As dawn arrives, the ladies plan to carry out the execution. They tie Evan up again and put him in a grave, burying him up to his neck. Genesis grabs a small sculpture and prepares to kill Evan with it, but she instead slams it down next to him and laughs. The ladies reveal that the whole ordeal was part of a game they like to play, where they trick married men into sleeping with them, hoping to find a man that can say no to them, but nobody ever has. Belle says that Evan was her favorite. They also reveal that they're not actually minors. Before leaving, Genesis gives Evan his phone and shows that they uploaded the video of him getting intimate with Belle to Facebook. The ladies then leave the house a mess. Evan pulls his hand out of the ground to delete the video, which is already receiving hate comments, but he accidentally presses like instead of delete. In the final scene, Karen and the kids return home to find the house a mess, and her sculptures and family pictures have hateful and ugly designs on them. Jake just thinks his dad had a party. Did this story spook you out? Let us know in the comments below. For more horror movie recaps, subscribe to our channel, and we will see you in the next one. Fear awaits you.